Record. All right. So today, all right. So we have today eggplant parmesan, fettuccine carbonara, and biscotti. So I've pretty much got. I'm going to go ahead and get the biscotti going because the biscotti is going to take what I consider the longest because it's just you got to bake it twice. So so what I'm going to do is make sure that my headphones are working. Yes, they are. So I'm going to start working on the biscotti. So yesterday, or actually, I'm going to turn off my gift wire real quick. Yesterday, I scaled up everything for the biscotti except for the almond extract and the vanilla. So I weighed out everything, so everything's kind of squared up, ready to go. So I'm gonna pull up the biscotti recipe and we're gonna knock that out. Okay, I already placed the nuts in a pan and baked them yesterday already. I let them cool. I need to cut them into small little chunks. I did not do that. So I've got my almonds here. I'm going to rinse my knife off because I was cutting some bacon. So I got a clean knife. No, my camera and turn it back on. All right, so I'm gonna get these nuts. Chop them up a little bit. Maybe I put too much on the cutting board. I'm working on my biscotti right now. Why? Because that's going to take the longest. I've already scaled out everything yesterday and toasted these nuts yesterday. All I need to do is I'm just going to go in by the recipe and chop up these nuts. So I'm chopping up the nuts. Runaway nuts. There we go. And that's all chopped up. So then in a large bowl, beat up the eggs, vanilla, and almond extract. Combine the flour, sugar, baking soda, salt, egg mixture bowl, mixing bowl. Let's see. All right, so I'm gonna get this set up real quick. And then after the biscotti is made, I'm going to work on my eggplant parmesan. So if anybody wants to follow along. And if you don't have a mixer, you can probably do it by hand. We need to get a paddle attachment. All right, so I've got a paddle attachment. I just need to pull in the gears. Mixing bowl for the people that just came in. I am working on my biscotti recipe. Good morning. So I'm working on my biscotti recipe right now. Why? Because that's going to take the longest. Eggplant. So biscotti, so here it goes again. In a bowl, beat eggs, vanilla, and almond extract. Two eggs. In a bowl, beat up the eggs, vanilla, and almond extract. Combine the flour, sugar. Okay, so I've got my eggs right here. I'm putting it into my blender. My almond extract, they're not blender, but my KitchenAid. Get the measuring spoons out. For vanilla. Vanilla in there. Almond extra. Well, gonna mix that up. Taste that, or you can already smell that almond extract, not taste it. All right, so we combined, beat up the eggs, vanilla, and almond extract. Combined in the flour, the sugar, the baking soda. So I'm gonna turn it on, paddle attachment, got the sugar. Flour. Baking soda. Salt. Go. Let's see. Let it blend for about a minute. Go. Boom. So I've got everything combined for the Scotty right now. Show you what it looks like. Here's what it looks like, just like that. You see, there we have it. A little, you know, from what it looks like, it's a little wet for my liking. So I'm going to probably add just a touch more flour in it because it seems a little too wet. It shouldn't kind of be this oozy a little bit. I'm going to just put just a little bit of flour into it just to kind of make it to where it doesn't, so where it'll hold its shape a little bit more when we bake it. So it doesn't flatten out. It just seems a little wet to me. So I'm going to just put just a splash of flour into it. And kind of just see I'm sprinkling just a little bit of flour into it. Get my rubber spat. And it's a little bit better. And I'll show you what it looks like in just a second. It just doesn't ooze off as much. It's a little thicker. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm gonna get that biscotti. Now that was easy, man. And there's not much to it. Just flour, sugar, baking soda, 2 eggs, almond extract, and vanilla. That is all she wrote. That is an easy recipe. Get biscotti. So I've combined it. So let's read that instruction. So I added the almonds. I'm gonna basically form a log for this. So I'm gonna get so once I get this going, I'm going to start making my eggplant parmesan. That's the next thing that's going to take the longest. And I've already made my fettuccine dough yesterday, right? So, you know, all I have to really do is just cook or, you know, roll out and cook my pasta. So I'm going to get my dough. You'll see I'm making it kind of wide. There we go. Something like that. Wash my hands. Still think it might be just a little bit, but we're gonna see how that works out. Here we go. See how it looks. I'm going to put this in a oven. Let's see. We're going to cook it at 300 for about 30 minutes. So it'll be right up to 7 o'clock when it's done. Our first bake. So first bake is 30 minutes, right? And then the second bake is around 10 to 15 minutes, give or take, depending on how long it takes for it to dry out. But also, I got to let it cool for a little bit before I cut it. So this is something that needs to happen as soon as possible because it's just going to take a while for it to bake and cool and then bake again. Clean up my station real quick and start working on the eggplant parmesan. Any questions on the biscotti recipe? Everybody good with the biscotti? Again, maybe just add, you might need to add a little more flour to, I would say maybe an ounce more flour to your recipe. You know, if it's a little wet, but I would do it, you know, once you kind of decide, once you make the recipe, you can decide for yourself. So the biscotti is in the oven. I need to just make sure I set a timer or I watch my clock or whatever else for about 30 minutes. In about 15 minutes, I'm going to rotate the pan. And that'll give me a good time to look at it and see what's going on. Oops. All right, so eggplant parmesan. We have, you're gonna be, wash the eggplant, slice the cap off and slice the eggplant lengthwise or in rounds. Arrange the slices on a tray, baking sheet, and put a paper towel, sprinkle salt, lightly coarse salt, and let it sit for about 30 minutes. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get a sheet pan or some item. I've got I will get a we have these brawny towels that I'm going to put down, and that will soak up some of the moisture. So I've got runny towel right here. I'm going to either clean this, make sure I get the sticker off of it. Sticker. Slice the top off. So I got my eggplant sliced. I'm going to lay it on the brawny towel or on a paper towel, whatever. Ooh, I just dropped one on the ground. That stinks. So I've got it laid out right here. I'm going to get my salt. Sprinkle salt on the top. Flip it over. Sprinkle salt on the other side. This helps pull out moisture. Let that just sit for about 30 minutes. So right now I've done two things. I've done the biscotti. That's going to take about 30 minutes to cook. The first 30 minutes, the first portion of it. And then I cut up the eggplant to do the eggplant parmesan. So this says arrange in, on the sheet tray, set aside for 30 minutes. You can stack the, once it's all done, we'll just kind of rinse it. After an hour of patting it, to make the tomato sauce. So what we're going to do is, while we're waiting on that, we're going to go ahead and make the tomato sauce. We're going to heat up some oil in a saucepan, mince garlic, chop up onions, saute until translucent. We're going to let, then we're going to add the tomato puree. If you don't have tomato puree, you can use tomato sauce or tomato paste and thin it down, or you can get whole diced tomatoes or some sort of tomato product in there to make a tomato sauce. And so I'm going to go ahead. I need to chop up garlic, but I also need garlic for my pasta dish. So since I'm cutting up garlic, I'm going to go ahead. Sorry, got the hiccups again. But I'm going to go ahead and cut up all my garlic so I don't have to cut it up later on. I can just cut it up all at once. Save me from having to clean my cutting board multiple times. I'm going to come look at my biscotti. It's spread out. Maybe you shouldn't do it as wide as I did it. Maybe do it a little bit tighter on the biscotti. I'll show you what it looks like in a little bit. I just wanted to finish baking. Okay, I'm going to get my garlic. This is all my garlic for both dishes. Since I need garlic, I'm going to go ahead for both dishes. I'm going to go ahead and just knock it out so it's easy for me and I don't have to re-clean cutting board or any of that sort of stuff. And I did pull out my pasta already out of the fridge to kind of warm up a little bit, so where it's not going to be as hard to roll out, especially if you're going to roll your pasta by hand, not with a pasta machine. So I'm just peeling this garlic real quick. And guys, I noticed this morning, I had thought I had put the video of yesterday up. I did, but it was corrupted in some way, and it did not completely download. So I downloaded it just a few minutes ago, and I will upload it to the portal again and see if it. Someone was saying it wasn't working yesterday, and I got onto it, and it looked like it wasn't working. So I deleted it, and I'm re-downloading it and uploading it. So it'll be a few minutes before I get that put up, but I will have it before I leave today. Sharpen the knife, steel. And this is going for two dishes, the spaghetti carbonara and the eggplant parmesan. Now, the one thing I would just suggest is make sure that you finely chop it no matter what, because again, no one likes big chunks of garlic in their food, unless it is roasted garlic or whatever else. It can be too strong. It can take over. It can take over your palate, and that's all the customer taste is that. So I'm gonna go ahead, open the oven up real quick and rotate my biscotti, and so where it's evenly brown. Guys, have y'all, please make sure there was a survey talking about if you, something about online and hybrid or whatever else. If you have not done that survey, please do so. Especially right now, because they're trying to figure out who needs to be in what class next block. So make sure you do that survey. I don't know when they sent it out, but I think it was a while back. Just make sure you try to get that done. All right, so I've got my garlic for my multiple dishes. So I've got put it in separate cups. So I want to get my knife and my cutting board clean. Yeah, I don't want body or whatever else that tastes like garlic. There we go. Let me pull out the biscotti so you can kind of see what it looks like right now. And this will give you an example of, you see how it kind of widened up a little bit? Maybe you might want to have a tighter row or whatever you want. Make it a little bit tighter so where it doesn't flatten out as much. But we need to cook that until it's golden brown on the outside, about 30 minutes. So right at 7 o'clock, I'll pull it out and then I'll take care of it. So we've gotten the garlic. I need to cut up my onion. Should I do that? Do small dice on this, small to medium dice. Again, we want the eggplant to be the main focus, not the tomato sauce. If that makes any sense. Because the recipe is called eggplant parmesan, not tomato sauce parmesan. Right? So you want everything in the tomato sauce to not be the main focus. You want the eggplant to be the main focus. That makes any sense to you? So I'm going to bring over the eggplant, and if you can look on that eggplant, you see how that moisture is coming up off the eggplant. That's kind of why we are salting these to help pull out that moisture so there the eggplants won't be so soggy when we cook this. Okay, so I've got my onions here. What else do we need? Onions, garlic, and that's pretty much it. I need my tomatoes, hand diced tomatoes, tomato paste, salt. I had a little bit of canned diced tomatoes left, and I have a little tomato paste. So I'm gonna kind of mix that together. Bada bing, bada boom. Shield it up. All right, so we're making basically tomato sauce, a basic tomato sauce, kind of like what we did with the braised stuff. Just like so, everybody see that? I'm gonna put it on the heat. Right, you could use olive oil, you could use butter, whatever. I'm gonna use some butter, just because I've got butter sitting out. If I had, I don't know, lard, duck fat, whatever. So I'm gonna put some butter, not much butter or not much fat, because again, we don't want it too greasy. So I'm going to let that melt. Now, I think I've gotten done with all my major cutting, so I'm going to get a new cutting board. Add onion in. Cut my biscotti in a while, so I want to make sure that. Right, so my butter's melted. I'm going to put in my onions first. Sweat those guys down. Good sweat on that. I've got, and I'll throw in my garlic in a few minutes. And then I will put in my tomato paste. And then from my paste, I will put in my hand diced tomatoes. And just gonna cook that down. Garlic in. You have any leftover basil or oregano from whenever we did it? You can put in a little bit of basil and oregano later on. You know, want to while you're making it. If you have any basil stems, you can put that into the mix, and then you can take it out later on. Adding flavor building. So I've got my onion cooking right here, and my garlic. The onions and garlic are doing the thing. And then I've got my tomato paste and my hand diced tomatoes whenever I need it. I'm going to turn this guy down. I'm going to pour a little bit of salt, or put a little salt on my onions and garlic. That helps pull out some of that moisture. Okay, so I'm kind of sitting idle right now. You know, I've got my eggplant. I don't know if you see. I had it the moisture coming off. I'll pat it off. My garlic. Okay, I'm going to crank up the heat. I'm going to add just a small, like maybe 2 tablespoons paste in here. I'm going to what's called pan-say. Pan-say means I've got it on high heat and I'm kind of blistering the tomato paste. I'm going to put a blister in it and get some color to it because I want some flavor. Yeah, and flavor building. Put my canned diced tomatoes. Maybe if you have any left over. If you had any tomato juice left over from the tomato juice, a little bit of water, chicken stock, whatever else. I just have it something like this, and I'm going to just kind of cook this down. I had a little bit of oregano, dried oregano, dried basil. I got a little dried oregano. I can put a little oregano in there. It's gonna cook, so cook down low and slow. That is the tempo, right? Just like the people said. Got that. I don't have any leftover basil, so can't really put any fresh basil in there, but I'm gonna let that kind of cook down and do its thing. It's kind of low and slow. I got a little bit of time. It's getting golden brown. I'm going to let it go another 5 more minutes or so. I'm going to pull it out of the oven, let it sit and cool for a few minutes, and then I will slice it with a serrated knife. And then I'm going to lay it as you can, and we're going to bake it until nice and dried out and just kind of right. So my tomato sauce is doing its thing, right? So going back to so the tomato sauce, it needs to cook for it says to cover. I'm going to just leave it low and slow. That is tempo. I can cover it up with a pie pan if I need to, or a little foil, or take the lid, whatever floats your boat. Just let it kind of slowly cook down and do its thing. It'll kind of slightly thicken a little bit. My eggplant, a lot of moisture is coming out. I will pad that dry a little bit right now. And let me find moisture. We'll pad it dry. So I'm kind of sitting idle. So what I've gotten is I've got my eggplants cut and moisture removing, coming off or in salted. I've got my tomato paste or my tomato sauce slowly simmering right here. And I've gotten my biscotti made, and the first part of it made gonna be heating up. Needs maybe 5 more minutes, and then I'll take it out, let it cool for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I will slice it and it's that. So I'm kind of sitting idle right now. So with that being said, now I'm going to go to my the fettuccine carbonara. All right, so we've got the pasta. We've already got the pasta made. We just need to roll it out and cut it. So we'll do that in a few. We have pancetta diced, or bacon cut into dice. I've got bacon right here. I cut into, cut the strips into little like lardons or 1/4 inch slices. I need to grate up some Parmesan, and I need to grate up some pecorino. So that's something I can do. I've already chopped up the garlic. I think I might chop it up a little bit more, finely chop it. I saw a couple of bigger pieces, so I want to make sure. And I've got butter, and I've got salt and pepper. So I've got pretty much everything staged up other than just grating up the cheese. So I'm going to go grab a grater, and then I will start to grate up the cheese, and then we will then I'll get the, in about 5 minutes, I'll get the Scotty out, and we'll work on that. But give me a second, let me go find a cheese grater. Be right back. I'm about to pull out the Scotty. All right, so here's the biscotti right here. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit and cool. Then I'm gonna slice it and then lay it out, and then we'll bake it again. And I'm gonna let it sit just for a few minutes to cool. Let's go back to the biscotti recipe real quick. So we're gonna bake it for 30 minutes until golden brown. Transfer to a rack and let it sit and cool. All right, so I'm gonna just take this, take it off of this. I'm gonna just transfer it to a rack and just let it sit and cool for a few minutes. And once it's cool, let's see, bake for 30 minutes until golden brown. Transfer to a rack for 10 to 15 minutes. Use a serrated knife, cut it at a 45-degree angle, about a ½ inch thick. And we're gonna lay it out. I need to get I need the oven at 250 degrees. And we're gonna bake it until it is nicely done. I've got my tomato sauce. I need to give it a look-see. So my tomato sauce is doing its thing. Smells really good. I smell the oregano in there. I need, refrigerator. And I think probably my biscotti is cool enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut my biscotti just like so. Gonna just make sure you cut it the same thickness across the board, because if not, one's going to be dried out and one's not going to be dried out. So I'm going to get a parchment paper and I'm going to lay it out, and so we're going to bake it at 250 degrees until dried out. This is what it looks like. Here's the biscotti right here. Just like so. I'm going to just lay it out just like this.
Looks good, Chef.
Oh yeah. You can put just about anything you want to.
Yeah, I was reading last night. I was like, wow, you can put anything in there.
Yep.
Orange, pistachio. I bought a little bit of pistachio.
Oh yeah, pistachio would be good.
Yeah,
Nice
almond and
idea.
pistachio.
Oh yeah. That would be really good. Pistachio would be really good at that. Some people like to put pumpkin, dried fruit, like cherry, dried cherry. But a lot of times you see orange zest on it or in it. Spread this out a little bit so where we'll have a little more room to dry out. I'm going to start baking it this way. Then after I bake it for a while, then I'm going to flip it over to the other side. So here's my biscotti. I'm going to just take it. Put it the 250 degree oven. And now let it cook. Don't need my serrated knife anymore. I'm going to go ahead and put that away. It's such a good knife. It's in my way. And plus, if you've ever been touched with a serrated knife, the first cut on that is always painful. So check on my tomato sauce. Now, wow, look at it in 2 minutes. And I'm going to dab off any of the moisture from my eggplant as well. Here's my tomato sauce. It has thickened up a little bit, right? Because it's cooked down. And I haven't put any salt or pepper, so I'm going to put some salt in there. I'm going to put some black pepper. Sometimes, you know, some tomato sauces, you put in a little bit of sugar to kind of balance the bitterness, because the tomato seeds have bitterness, and that's one of the reasons why people put a little sugar in there. But I'm gonna have to look at it. I'm pretty content with the thickness and the doneness of this, so I'm gonna just turn it off. Just keep it covered, let it sit for a few minutes, and I'll deal with it. I'm going to go ahead and start working on the eggplant, because I need to rinse it off, I'm not gonna do it. It calls for an hour. Actually, I'll wait a little bit. I will. I'm gonna go ahead and get together a breading station. Now, I don't know if y'all have this or not, but if you have extra panko from last week or any sort of breadcrumbs from last week, you could use the breadcrumbs for the breading. If you do not have any breadcrumbs, you could just use a flour mixture or just a flour, kind of like more, kind of like a, crumble up and or grind up and use that as your breadcrumbs. But I'm going to do a 3-stage breading procedure for this for the eggplant. So it's going to be flour, egg, and then whatever I'm going to bread it with. So I'm going to get a little bit of egg. And I don't think this recipe calls for it to be breaded. Now, and I'm going to explain the reason why. If you don't bread it, what happens is eggplant is very spongy. And when you cook your eggplant, it tends to, the oil sucks up into your eggplant and it tends to make it really oily and greasy. So, I'm going to get an egg.
Chef, I could use any of the flowers for the eggplant, right?
Yes.
Because I'm really out of AP flour.
Yes, yes, you can use any sort of egg. I mean, any sort of flour.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had eggs in front of me. And I've got 2 eggs. I'm going to just add a little bit of water to those eggs so where you won't be snotty like. So whenever I bread it. All right, so I've got flour. I got my egg, and I need my breadcrumbs. You have a little bit of breadcrumbs, it's a combination of breadcrumb and flour, whatever. It should be. I'll show you these eggplants. Oh yeah, now you can see the moisture on the eggplant. Does everybody see that? That's kind of what we're trying to remove. All right, so. All right, so let's look at here. All right, so we're gonna, All right, so I've got my eggplant right here. I'm gonna just kind of pat it off, dry. All right, so I'm gonna pat off the moisture. Now, it says to rinse them, okay? You know, yeah, that's, you know, you want to kind of get a lot of that salt off. Salting, but again, if you know, if you rinse them, what are you doing? You're adding moisture back, right? So you've got to just be very careful. You know, I'm gonna just add this off. I'm gonna rinse it. You just need to make sure you don't let it sit for too long in the moisture. And I'm gonna pat it off now. Make sure it's dry. Then okay, I'm gonna take a look, see if it's Scotty. Everything it's saying, it's looking good, but just let it go a little longer. I'm gonna dry off my eggplant now. I'm gonna go ahead, while I'm waiting on I'm gonna dry my eggplant, I'm gonna go ahead, grate my Parmesan, grate everything. So where I don't have to do any more mise en place or anything like that. It's all my floss would be done. And so where I don't need to do any more. So I'm gonna just grate up some Parmesan in a and I can use some of this Parmesan as well in this cheese for both dishes, my pasta dish and my eggplant dish. I'm gonna run and go get some parm. I can start making the building the eggplant Parmesan. Right up there. Parm. Alright, so I got Parmesan cheese. All good. Also, I'm gonna have to, so I'm gonna get this breaded up. So let me get my. So I have my eggplant that is sitting right here, as you can see. I'm gonna sprinkle some salt, even though I salted these, I still wanna season this with some salt and pepper. A little bit of oregano. I can sprinkle a little bit of oregano in my flour. I mean my panko. I'm going to season my panko with some salt, some black pepper as well. I can put some Parmesan cheese if I want to, but I'm going to hold off. I'm going to put my eggplant. I need a container to put my. So I'm going to take my eggplant. I just did it in the flour. I'm going to spank it off, but make sure it coats with flour. I'm going to put it in the egg, make sure it gets coated. And then I'm going to take my panko, seasoned panko, or if it's seasoned flour, that's fine. Whatever floats your boat. And there we go. It's a nice thin layer of breading. You don't want it too full or too breaded. There we go. That looks great. Put that right there. Go back. Crank it off. Get the flat. Get the egg in there. Always have a wet hand and a dry hand. Now I'm going to need a saute pan, and I'm going to have to saute it or get some fat in the saute pan, and so where I can kind of fry these up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fry it. Then I'm going to then I can kind of layer it if I would like with, put some tomato sauce down and I don't know how it describes what needs to happen. But I'll hopefully look at it in a second. Flour all over my computer. Open this down. I think I have enough for one more. 2 small eggplants. All right, so I've got my eggplants all done. We'll get rid of any of my breading. Oven board. Wash my hands, clean my station up, and then kind of start the process of kind of cooking everything. Because everything else is kind of staging myself up. Okay, so I've got my eggplant done. I can put this either a little bit more, or you can put it in the fridge. But when you put it in the fridge, sometimes the moisture messes it up. So that's added. Need to check my Scotty and maybe rotate the pan. Flip them to where it's drying out the other side as well. Let that go do its thing. Okay, I'm gonna need, so let's. Yeah. I mean, I think you should use it. It'll be fine, but I would use it for next week. Yeah. I would say probably not, because by next week it's gonna not. Yeah. Uh-huh. All right, so I am back. So let's see. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to get a saute pan. I need a couple of saute pans. So this is saying, all right, so we fry up the eggplant. So I'm going to go ahead and fry up the eggplant, right? And then it says to assemble this, you're going to get an oven to 200 or 350. I'm going to transfer 1/3 of the tomato sauce into a small mixing bowl. So I'm going to take some of this. Okay, so I took some of that tomato sauce, transferred it into a small mixing bowl. When the tomato sauce is cool to room temperature, add the egg to the remaining 2/3 sauce and mix to combine. Be sure to let the sauce cool before you add it, or you're going to make basically egg drop soup. You're going to cover the bottom of a small baking dish. Oh, basically you're going to layer it. So it's going to be like a Napoleon style. I'm going to go ahead. I could probably, let's see, probably do it in a pie tin, something like this. We'll do. So let's see. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got my tomato sauce right here. I'm going to just put it in the pie tin. Spread it out, and this is what I'm going to put the fried eggplant right on top of this. Then I'm going to cover, once this tomato sauce cools, then I'm going to put an egg in there, and then I will cover up the tomato sauce, or to cover up the eggplant with the rest of that tomato sauce. So I'm going to need to fry up this eggplant real quick. So I'm going to get a saute pan, get some oil into it. Oil into my product. Actually, it's not oil. I had a little extra lard that was sitting in the cooler when I cleaned out my cooler. So I'm using lard. My frying oil. Take the rest of the tomato sauce out of the bowl or out of the pot. And then I'm going to, this tomato sauce is sitting right here, but we need one egg. Is that right? So I'm gonna let this sit and cool for a few minutes. I'm gonna crack an egg and just kind of have this egg sitting here. Call for a whole. All right, so the fat is heating up. Put a little bit of breadcrumb in there or something. It's looking like it's getting close. I'm going to use a fish spatula. I don't want to use tongs because if I grab it with tongs, I can easily screw it up. So I'm just frying these guys, getting them nice and crispy and golden brown. We're not trying to like cook it completely. You know, we're just trying to get it nice and golden brown. But we're gonna finish it up in the oven. So it's a bunch of little steps to it. Brown. I'll show you what it looks like in just 1 second. When you pick out the eggplant, you might want to put it on a paper towel or something, just to soak up the excess fat. I'll show you, I don't know if you can see it, what it looks like, but nice and golden brown. Okay, I'm going to put my egg in my tomato sauce. Now, mix that up.
Hey Chef, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Should the biscotti feel like kind of like a bread texture? Chef,
Right, what was your question again?
should the biscotti have kind of like a bread texture when done?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you, Chef.
Maybe just a little softer than bread. I would just say maybe it's just a touch softer than the bread. Speaking of that, that reminded me of my biscotti. They're nice and hard on the inside. So I'm going to take them out and let them sit. cools, then I can easily, I could dredge flour, or put chocolate on it or whatever else. So I've got my tomato and I've got my eggplant fried. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put a little cheese on there. Got my and so it says, all right, so be sure that the sauce is cooled before. Okay, cover the bottom of the baking sheet or whatever else with a layer of the eggplant and then the sauce. Then cover the layer, cover that layer with sauce with the another kind of an eggplant. So I'm going to cover it. I'm going to get and I'm gonna put that tomato sauce with the egg mixture. So sprinkle Parmesan. We can put, if you have the mozzarella, you could add the buffalo mozzarella to it. A little parsley, color, and then we're going to bake it and cook it until it reaches the internal temp of 165. And that is it. Take it out. So here is what the eggplant looks like, just like so. I'm going to put it in 350 degree oven because my biscotti is done. And I'm going to let that go until for about 30 minutes or so. And there she has it. So that is done. I can get rid of now I need to roll out my pasta. I need to work on my spaghetti or my fettuccine carbonara. So I need to make some room because I'm going to roll out pasta. Give me a second. So as of right now, my eggplant is done. It's just sitting, it's cooking. It's almost done. My biscotti is done, it's sitting cooling right now. My, so the last thing I need to work on is the fettuccine. So work on that. Okay, while I'm here, you're gonna have to cook some bacon, and since I'm kind of working right beside my stove, I'm gonna go ahead and start cooking chicken, and kind of pull off to the side. I want some of that So eggplant parmesan, we're done. All we have to do is just kind of deal with it. The biscotti is done. There's nothing that we need to deal with. The potato or the egg pasta, we made that yesterday, so I've got it sitting here. We don't need to worry about that. So the last thing I need to worry about is this fettuccine carbonara. So I need water going as well. So I'm gonna get a pot of water going. Pasta. Just getting everything staged up now. Pot of water. Getting organized real quick. I've got room and a clean table because I don't want my pasta getting all dirty and nasty. And then make sure my table's nice and clean before I pasta out. I need a sheet pan or something to put my pasta on. I need a touch of flour to dust my pasta whenever I'm cutting it. My eggplant is going. I just can't forget my eggplant. My biscotti. So I'm gonna just roll out my pasta. Camera over there. Here's my pasta. Wrap it. Stickier than that. This means I'm gonna for sure need to get flour because it is pretty sticky. Oh, sticky. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, I'm gonna get some flour on it because it is awful sticky. I'm gonna use half of it at first. Make sure. And we're just doing fettuccine, but remember that the pasta will double in its size, whatever the size is, it will double. So make sure that it is proper thickness. You're doing it with a rolling pin. You know, I would just, you might need to let it sit and rest for a few minutes. You know, every time you roll it a little thinner. Here's my dough. I'm gonna just add more flour because the thinner it gets, the stickier it gets. Touch my flour on there. Okay, if you see how long that pasta is, I will cut this in half because this is too long. Now I'm going to cut this into fettuccine noodles. But before that, before I do that, I'm going to dust this with flour before I cut it. And if you're cutting it by hand, if you don't have a pasta machine, I would suggest letting it sit on your table for a little bit to dry out before you cut it. Just because it will cut a little easier for you. Guys, a good place to find pasta machines that are cheap. I bought one at Goodwill. You know, I usually go to Goodwill or something and try to look around. TJ Maxx, another good place. Ross, Home Goods. Any of those places are great places to get pasta machines at a lower or cheaper cost. But if you go, a lot of y'all live in the Austin area. If you go to A Smart Restaurant Supply and tell them you're a student at Escoffier, you will get, I think, a 10 or 15% discount of any sort of cooking product. There's my pasta right there. I'm going to just let that sit for a second. Since I'm here, I'll just roll out. I've got time. We'll roll out the rest of the pasta. Fresh pasta does not take long to cook, so it's gonna take less time than that dried pasta that we did yesterday. So I'm not that big of a hurry to cook it, but I've got it kind of sitting in my water, sitting there, kind of waiting for me to cook it. I need to start cooking my bacon in a few minutes. I hadn't started that, but I wanted to just knock out my pasta and then focus in on everything else. Because then I can kind of clean up my station and everything is prepped. The only thing I do need to do, and I don't know if you remember, but I said I wanted to chop up my garlic for this sauce a little bit more because it was a little chunky once I put it in the cup. So I'm going to probably chop up my garlic a little bit more for the sauce that we're going to be making for this dish. Dust this guy with some flour. It's getting pretty thin, and as it gets thin, it's sticky, and I would much rather fix it here than not than it stick in my machine and machine gets all jacked up. So I'm going to cut this pasta in half. And then I will cut it with the cutter. Cutter. A little more flour. Just make sure if you're doing multiple batches of this, make sure that whatever thickness you rolled it out at the very beginning is the thickness you roll out for all. If not, the pasta is going to cook unevenly. Sprinkle flour, spread it out. I like to spread it out. I don't like to let it sit on itself because sometimes, especially this pasta was a little stickier at the very beginning. So I want to make sure that it's not too sticky and it sticks together. All right, so here's my pasta right here. I'm going to go ahead and clean up my station. But before that, I'm going to look at my eggplant parmesan. It's looking mighty fine. It's looking quite sexy. I'm going to remove my pasta machine, wipe down my table. And then honestly, my pasta is going to take no time at all. The longest thing to take is to cook this bacon. Let's get it crispy. Right, when you cook bacon, guys, first of all, you want to start off with a cold pan. You never want to start off with a hot pan. The reason is because you want to render the fat. Rendering means to remove, to get rid of the fat, right? So if you want to render down fat, you go low and slow because bacon tends to burn, right? We don't want burnt bacon. We want crispy bacon. So we are going to go low and slow and pull out all that fat. We just want a nice crispy bacon. So once I get the table cleaned, I'm going to organize myself real quick. And then do this. I need to actually pull out my eggplant in a second. I just kind of looked at it through the window. Sanitize, clean the table. And guys, remember, Monday and Tuesday, I'm not going to be here. I've got a doctor's appointment in Houston at MD Anderson, so I will not be around. Chef Pablo will be doing the class. Now, also, the people that are picking up food, I'm going to have to schedule with somebody to help you pick up the food. So my suggestion, the person that's going to be scheduled will be here at 10 o'clock in the morning. So you cannot get here until 10, unfortunately, because she's not going to be here, and it's going to be Chef Emily. And some of y'all have already met her. She's going to be the person that is going to be helping you get your product. Patient, because it's a bunch of little stuff, a bunch of herbs, a bunch of spices, because we're getting in, to Africa and to Asia, and it's getting, Asia, and there's lots of different things that you've got to get. be patient and watch your.
Chef, I need to mention something to you, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am, I'm listening.
Yeah, I have an allergic reaction to shrimp. Can't even be around it, anything.
Okay. Well, then, let's don't. You don't need to be using shrimp.
Okay.
All right, so I'll look and see what we have different, and we'll try to figure it out. Just if you can remind me at the end of class so I can look at the recipes.
Yes, chef.
All right, thank you. So here's my eggplant right here. I don't know if you can see it, but that's kind of what my eggplant parmesan looks like. I'm gonna let that go for about maybe 5 more minutes, and I'm gonna pull it out and mix that. And so questions about the eggplant parmesan, right? So now we're gonna go with this. I need, let's see. Okay, so we need to cook our bacon. So here's my bacon. I've got a saute pan, a cold saute pan. I'm gonna put it right here. I'm gonna turn it on, medium to low. And I'm gonna let that cook. I want it nice and golden brown and crispy. So it's gonna take maybe 10 minutes or so. I'm gonna turn down my pasta water because I don't want it to reduce down too much. I'm gonna kind of gather up everything I need for my dish. So I've got, oh yeah, I need to chop up some garlic real quick. I hear my bacon starting to sizzle, so I'm gonna just let it go. Turn it off. We need gonna get my egg, crack my egg. I need 1 fresh egg, so I've got it sitting right here. I like to crack it ahead of time because I don't like to accidentally get shells in anything. I've got my Parmesan Parmesan and Pecorino mix right here. Everything's doing the same. I'm gonna go ahead and pull out this is my eggplant parmesan right here. I'll pull it out and just gonna let it sit. And I don't know if you understand why we put an egg in our eggplant parmesan. And it was to help because there's a lot of moisture, right? You have moisture from the egg or from the eggplant, and also moisture from the tomatoes itself. And if you use egg, that egg helps thicken it up a little bit to bind it, so where there's not as much moisture sitting in the pan or in the pan at the end of the pan. I got my bacon. I'm just rendering it down. I do want my bacon nice and crispy, so I'm going to just manage that. Make sure that that is taken care of. So I need my garlic and I need my onion. I need garlic. All right. Okay, so I'm going to quickly chop up this garlic a little bit more because it is not, I think I did not do such a good job on this one. because again, this is gonna be pasta. I don't want the garlic to be the main focus. Okay, I will check on my bacon. Bacon, eggplant parmesan. All right, so let's look at the instructions here. We're gonna cook a fresh pasta for 2 to 3 minutes in boiling salted water. In a saute pan, add the pancetta until golden brown or the bacon. So you're gonna have to do the bacon before because pancetta cooks less time. We're gonna add the butter, some garlic, and then we're gonna add the pasta. The pasta's coming out of the boiling water, and you're gonna saute it. Add a little bit of the cooking water. Then you're gonna, we need to put the egg and cheese in a bowl. So I'm gonna do that in just a second. Be careful, the bacon is getting in the form to go get me a bowl. All right, we're going to, in a bowl, you're gonna mix the cheese and the egg. So I'm gonna take the egg right here. I'm gonna beat it up. Like so. I'm gonna put the cheese. There's my egg and cheese mixture sitting right here. And check my bacon. When my bacon is done, I want to go ahead and take that bacon out and make sure I kind of, I'll put a paper towel underneath this to soak up into that fat. And now the issue I have, some people will just use, will kind of use all of that bacon fat. The problem with I have. I will get you if I need it. But very important that you take your bacon out. You don't want to burn it. I'll show you what my crispy bacon is. I don't need the oven any longer. Turn it off. Scotty or cooled. And done. If I have chocolate or something, I could drizzle chocolate all over it. Whatever else. I really don't need a cutting board any longer. Like I said, the bacon was going to be the longest thing that's going to take. Hey, I'm going to crank up. Actually, After my bacon is done, I'm gonna go and go grab my plates, because that's when the rest of it's gonna take no time at all. So I just need to wait on that. So I'm gonna add, so I mixed the egg and the cheese together. And then I'm gonna kind of toss it all in at the end. All right, here's my bacon. I don't know if you can see, nice and crispy. I'm taking it out of the pan. Put that in here. Okay, so I don't know if you can see how much bacon fat is. That's quite a bit. I might not need all of that, so I'm gonna just take some of it out, and I can always add it to it again. I just can never take it away. So I'll have a little bit of bacon fat in there. All right, so I'm gonna go use the restroom and get ready and get my plates, and I'll be right back in 5 minutes, and we'll start plating it up and cooking the last little bit. Be right back. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start the dish. So I'm going to go ahead. First, so I'm going to go ahead, get my pasta cooking. So I need my pasta water boiling. I don't know why it's not boiling. I'm going to get my pasta water boiling. I've got my egg and sitting right over here. Egg and the cheese mixture. I need my pasta water going. Have that going. But so I'm gonna, so I took out my pancetta, my bacon. I'm gonna add the butter and garlic. Now it calls for butter. Now I've got bacon fat, right? So I can use a little bit of that bacon fat and a little bit of butter if I so desire. But again, we don't want this. We don't want it to be too greasy and too nasty. So I'm going to put a little bit of butter, a little bit of bacon fat in my pan. And see how much. See how much. I got a little bit of bacon fat. Turn it on low for a second. I'm gonna wait until my pasta water comes up. I guess I must have turned it off instead of turning it on. And it's pretty easy. It's just add the garlic, the butter, saute, and then add pasta and some pasta water to it. So I'm gonna All right, so my pasta water is at a boil now, rolling boil. I'm gonna put it in my pasta. I'm not going to mess with it until it comes back up to a simmer. Because if it sits there for a minute and then I stir it, I could easily rip it apart. So for this dish, you need to be kind of ready because everything kind of happens all a minute or very, very fast. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got my garlic, chopped garlic in my saute pan with my butter and my bacon fat. Now, what I really don't want is I don't want my garlic to burn. Take it off the heat for a second, let it kind of cook. My pasta is now coming up to a simmer. I'll stretch it out. See, my garlic is just kind of doing its thing. Off the heat. I don't want it to burn. Pasta water coming up. My pasta's coming up. So it basically, so I'm going to add the pasta and a little touch of water. Then I'm going to pour in the egg cheese mixture. Now the problem is you've got to be very careful because we don't scramble that egg cheese mixture, right? Because it's an egg-based product, so you need to be very careful with it. So I've got my pasta doing its thing right there. Pasta cooking. How thin your pasta is. Pasta is almost done. Transfer that pasta into the saute pan. touch of that pasta water. Toss it around. Just like so. And my egg cheese mixture. A little more of that pasta water. Tossing it around. It's nice and creamy and cheesy like. Taste it. I'm sure needs salt. I'm going to put in a little bit of parsley. Put in a little more cheese. I'm going to put in the bacon now. Don't forget the bacon. Taste it one more time. Okay, get my pasta. Twist the plate or twist the pasta with my, give it some height. Make sure you finish it with a little more bacon, some cheese. And I'm going to finish it with a little bit of parsley to give it some color. And I'll wipe down the sides in just a second. Last little bit of bacon that I had. Corn. Parsley. Wipe down the plates. Here's the fettuccine carbonara right here. I will get the panna cotta. Should be like a rock. If you had any chocolate or anything, you could drizzle chocolate on it. Scotty right here. And then we have our eggplant parmesan. I'm going to cut this into a little pie-shaped looking thing. And I'll plate it up. Nice. And then you have the eggplant parmesan right here. Put a little bit of fresh grated parm on there, a little bit of parsley. And there we go. Eggplant parmesan. Oops, the camera's focusing. So we have our eggplant parmesan, our all the dishes. Got one, it's not. There it is. Dish right here, eggplant parmesan, and you have the biscotti. Questions, problems, concerns? All right then.
Okay,
That's
so I
it.
have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for the eggplant parmesan, for the parmigiana,
Yes.
were we putting that on the eggplant before we fry it?
The breadcrumb mixture, yes, but nothing else.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Hey, guys, I'll be right back. So all I'm gonna do now is start kind of cleaning up my station, and we'll kind of go from there.